She built a luxury hotel empire from nothing. But when she walked into her own flagship property, they didn't see a CEO.
They saw someone who didn't belong.
And what happened next in that marble lobby would either destroy everything she'd built or expose a truth that powerful people had been hiding for years. Sometimes you have to disguise yourself to see the truth hiding in plain sight. There's a particular kind of silence that comes before a storm. Maya Ellison knew this silence well. She'd felt it before every major moment in her life. The night before her college entrance exams, the morning she pitched investors for her first hotel, the day she signed the papers that made her a CEO. And she felt it now, standing across the street from the Ellison Grand, watching the golden light spill from its enormous glass doors onto the Chicago sidewalk. She looked different today. Gone was the tailored Armani suit, the signature pearl earrings, the sleek updo that had graced the cover of Forbes magazine just 3 months ago. Instead, Maya wore a simple black sweater, jeans, and comfortable flats. Her natural hair was pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup. No jewelry except for a plain watch. She thought with a bitter irony, exactly like herself, just without all the armor that usually announced successful to the world. The complaints had started small. A whisper here, an email there. I felt uncomfortable at check-in. The staff treated my family differently. Something feels off at the Grand. For weeks, Maya had tried to investigate from her corporate office, sending surveys, reviewing policies, speaking with management. But the numbers on paper told one story, and the voices of her black and brown guests told another. And Maya Ellison hadn't built a $100 million hotel empire by ignoring patterns. So here she was, about to walk into her own flagship property as a stranger. About to test whether the values she'd poured into every mission statement, every training manual, every hiring decision actually meant anything. Or whether they were just pretty words printed on expensive paper. She thought about her grandmother, Evelyn, who'd worked as a maid in hotels for 40 years and never once got to stay in one as a guest. Baby, her grandmother used to say, you'll know you've really made it when you can walk through any door like you own the place, because in your heart, you already do. Maya had built these hotels partly for her grandmother, to prove that the little black girl whose family cleaned rooms could grow up to own the whole building. But what good was ownership if the doors still didn't open the same way for everyone? Maya took a deep breath, adjusted the strap of her simple canvas bag, and crossed the street. The Ellison Grand was magnificent. She designed every detail herself, pouring 3 years of her life into making it perfect. The lobby soared 3 stories high, with Italian marble floors that gleamed like water under the light of crystal chandeliers. Modern art from black artists lined the walls, bold, unapologetic statements of culture and excellence. The scent of fresh lilies mixed with the subtle fragrance of the custom candles she'd commissioned. Everything about the space was meant to say, you are welcome here. You are valued here. You belong here. But the moment Maya stepped through those golden revolving doors, she felt it. The shift. A couple in expensive athleisure walked past her toward the elevator, laughing. The concierge smiled warmly at them, tipped his head. Good afternoon, have a wonderful day. Then his eyes slid past them and landed on Maya. The smile didn't disappear exactly, it just changed. Became thinner. More cautious. His gaze lingered a moment too long, assessing, questioning. Maya felt the old familiar tightness in her chest, the one she'd spent years learning to breathe through. She reminded herself, you're here to see the truth. Whatever it is, you need to see it. She walked toward the reception desk, her footsteps echoing on her own marble floors. Behind the gleaming mahogany counter stood a young woman with perfect posture and a practiced smile. Her name tag read Jessica. Good afternoon, Maya said pleasantly. Checking in. Reservation under Johnson. Jessica's fingers moved across the keyboard, her smile remaining fixed, but somehow not reaching her eyes. Johnson, may I see your ID and credit card, please? Maya handed them over. She watched Jessica's eyes flick to the ID, then back to Maya's face, then down to the credit card. There was a pause, brief, but noticeable. This card, is it yours? The question hung in the air like smoke. Yes, Maya said calmly. though her heart had started beating faster. Is there a problem? No, no problem. It's just protocol. We have to verify. Jessica's smile had become even tighter. She typed something, frowned slightly at her screen, then picked up the phone. One moment, please. Maya watched as Jessica spoke quietly to someone, her eyes occasionally darting back to Maya. 3 minutes passed. Then 5. Behind Maya, a white couple approached the desk. A different receptionist, an older man named Richard, according to his name tag, greeted them with immediate warmth. Welcome to the Ellison Grand.
Checking in?
Wonderful. Let's get you taken care of right away. No request for ID. No verification calls. Just smooth, efficient, welcoming service. The tightness in Maya's chest became a knot. Finally, Jessica hung up the phone. I'm sorry for the wait. My manager wants to speak with you about your reservation. About my reservation? Maya kept her voice level. Is something wrong with it? He'll be right out. And then he appeared. Travis Cole. Maya recognized him immediately. She'd hired him herself 2 years ago. He'd had an impeccable resume, 15 years in luxury hospitality, glowing recommendations. He'd interviewed beautifully, said all the right things about inclusive excellence and hospitality for all. She'd believed him. Travis was tall, mid-40s, with silver-streaked hair and the kind of confident bearing that came from a lifetime of being taken seriously. He approached with a professional smile, but Maya could see his eyes were already hardened, already dismissive. Good afternoon, Ms. Johnson. I'm Travis Cole, the general manager. I understand there's been some confusion with your reservation? No confusion on my end, Maya said. I booked a room. I'm here to check in. Travis glanced at the computer screen, then back at Maya. Yes, well, I'm seeing here that the card you've provided has been flagged by our system, and the billing address doesn't match our records. Maya felt a cold fury beginning to build, but she kept her face neutral. Flagged? I use this card everywhere. There's no issue with it. I'm not saying there's an issue, Travis said, his tone sliding into something condescending, the way you'd speak to a child who didn't understand how the adult world worked. I'm just saying we need additional verification. For your protection, of course. Identity theft is a serious concern, especially in a luxury property like this. Especially for guests who look like me? The words were out before Maya could stop them. Travis's expression shifted, surprise, then defense, then something harder. That's completely inappropriate. We treat all our guests equally. I'm simply following protocol. Protocol. Maya heard the bitterness in her own voice. Tell me, does your protocol involve making phone calls and requiring additional verification for every guest? Or just some? A small crowd had begun to gather. Other guests pausing their conversations, staff members glancing over. Maya was aware of phones being lifted, of this moment being captured. Some part of her CEO brain noted the liability, but a deeper part, the part that was tired, so tired of swallowing indignity for the sake of peace, pushed forward. Travis's professional mask was cracking. Ma'am, I don't appreciate your tone. If you're going to be difficult. Difficult? I'm standing here with a valid reservation and a valid credit card, being treated like a criminal. That's not. Travis's jaw tightened. Look, let me be frank with you. This is a luxury establishment. Our rates start at $700 a night. Are you certain you can afford to stay here? Because we've had situations before where people book rooms they can't actually pay for, and it causes problems for everyone. The lobby seemed to hold its breath. Maya stared at this man she'd hired, this man whose salary she paid, this man who was standing in a building with her name on it, questioning whether she belonged. Let me see your manager, Maya said quietly. I am the manager. Then let me see the billing breakdown. Show me exactly what's been flagged. Travis's expression darkened. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone he'd already decided wasn't worth his respect. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside. You're causing a disruption. I'm causing a disruption? I'm simply asking for the service I paid for. You're raising your voice. I'm speaking at a normal volume. You're just not used to being questioned. And there it was, The moment the professional veneer shattered completely. Travis leaned closer, and Maya could see the anger in his eyes, the resentment, the barely contained rage at being challenged by someone he'd already dismissed. "Listen to me very carefully," he said, his voice low and venomous. "I don't know what kind of game you're playing or how you got that credit card, but I'm not going to let you walk in here and—" "And what?" Maya interrupted. "Stay in a hotel? Use a service I paid for? Exist in a space you've decided I don't belong in?" Travis's hand twitched. The lobby was completely silent now. Maya saw one of the housekeepers, an older black woman with kind eyes, watching with an expression of recognition and sorrow, as if she'd seen this play out 1,000 times before. "You need to leave," Travis said through clenched teeth.
"Now."
"Before I call security." "Call them," Maya said. Her voice was steady, but inside, her heart was breaking. This was her hotel, her dream, her grandmother's legacy. And it was broken. "I want witnesses to this." Something in Travis snapped. Maybe it was her defiance. Maybe it was the audience. Maybe it was a lifetime of unchecked privilege meeting a wall it could knock down. His hand came up fast, and before anyone could react, before Maya could even flinch, his palm connected with her face. The slap echoed through the marble lobby like a gunshot. Time seemed to slow down. Maya felt the sting, the shock, the humiliation. She saw phones raised, recording everything. She saw staff members frozen in horror. She saw other guests gasping. And she saw Travis's face, the immediate regret warring with defiant anger, the realization of what he'd just done. In that moment, Maya Ellison understood something profound. This wasn't just about one racist manager. This was about a system, a culture, a rot that had infected the very foundation of what she'd built. And no amount of beautiful marble or inspiring mission statements could hide it anymore. She touched her cheek, feeling the heat where his hand had struck. Then she looked Travis Cole directly in the eye. "My name," she said clearly, her voice carrying through the silent lobby, "is Dr. Maya Ellison. I am the founder and CEO of Ellison Hotels International. And you just assaulted me in my own building." The color drained from Travis's face. "Security," Maya continued, still looking at him. "Please escort Mr. Cole off the property. Jessica, Richard, you're suspended pending investigation. I want every staff member who witnessed this incident to remain here. I want every guest who recorded this to please send their footage to our corporate office. And I want this hotel closed for a full operational review, effective immediately." Her hands were shaking, but her voice never wavered. "And Travis." She waited until he looked at her, his career crumbling in real time behind his eyes. "You should have just let me check in." And in that moment of violence, caught by a dozen phone cameras, Maya Ellison made a choice that would change everything. The hours after the slap moved like a fever dream. Maya stood in the lobby of her own hotel, no longer disguised, no longer pretending, and watched as everything she'd built threatened to crumble around her. Security escorted Travis Cole out through a side door. His face had gone from furious red to ashen white in the span of minutes. He kept trying to speak, to explain, to somehow walk back what a dozen cameras had captured, but Maya simply held up her hand. "Save it for your lawyer," she said quietly. "You're going to need one." Jessica and Richard had been led to the security office. Other staff members clustered in small groups, whispering frantically, some crying, some looking genuinely shocked, others wearing expressions that told Maya they'd known all along. She saw it in their eyes, the ones who'd witnessed Travis's behavior before, who'd maybe even enabled it, who'd chosen silence over speaking up. But it was the housekeeper who broke Maya's heart. The older black woman she'd noticed earlier stepped forward tentatively, her uniform crisp and neat, her hands clasped together. Up close, Maya could see the lines around her eyes, the gray threading through her hair, the weight of years spent navigating spaces that didn't always welcome her. "Dr. Ellison," the woman said softly. "My name is Gloria Patterson. I've worked here since the grand opened 3 years ago." She paused, swallowed hard. "I'm so sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry we let it happen." Maya felt tears prick her eyes, but blinked them back. You didn't let anything happen, Gloria. This isn't on you. But I saw things, Gloria continued, her voice gaining strength. I saw how Mr. Cole treated certain guests differently. How he'd make comments about those people when he thought only certain staff were listening. How he'd assign rooms, move reservations, find reasons to turn away guests who didn't fit his vision. She looked directly at Maya. I documented it. I kept records. I didn't know what to do with them, but I kept them. Because I knew, someday, someone would need to see the truth. Maya stared at this woman, this stranger who had just become the most important ally she didn't know she had. You documented it? Everything? Gloria nodded. Emails, incident reports I filed that went nowhere, my own personal notes. 23 years I've worked in hotels, Dr. Ellison. I know the difference between one bad apple and a rotten tree. And I'm tired of staying quiet. But staying quiet, Maya was about to learn, was exactly what powerful people expected her to do. The emergency board meeting was called for the following morning. Maya barely slept. She spent the night in her real apartment, the penthouse suite overlooking Lake Michigan, with her laptop open, reviewing every piece of data she could find. Incident reports, guest complaints, staff turnover rates. She saw the pattern now, glaring and undeniable. The Grand had a 68% turnover rate among Black and Latino staff. Guest satisfaction scores among minorities were 15 points lower than among white guests. Complaints of discrimination had been filed with HR 7 times in the past year alone. 7 times. And she'd never seen a single report. Her phone buzzed. It was Alicia Chin, her best friend from law school, and now one of Chicago's top civil rights attorneys. I saw the video, Alicia said without preamble. It's everywhere, Maya. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Millions of views already. Are you okay? Maya touched her cheek. The swelling had gone down, but the bruise was darkening, a purple shadow blooming across her brown skin. Physically? I'll heal. Everything else. She laughed bitterly. I built this company on the principle that everyone deserves dignity, that luxury shouldn't be gatekept, that a Black woman could not just stay in these spaces but own them. And now I find out my own flagship hotel has been doing exactly what I swore I'd never allow. This isn't on you, Alicia said firmly. You didn't hit anyone. You didn't discriminate. Travis Cole did. And from what you're telling me, the rot goes deeper than one manager. The board meeting is tomorrow, Maya said. I'm shutting the Grand down for a complete review. I'm implementing new training, new policies, new oversight. I'm going to fix this. There was a pause on the other end. Maya, are you sure the board is going to let you? Let me? I'm the CEO. I founded this company. You also have investors, board members, and some of them come from the founding family that originally owned that property before you bought it, right? Maya felt ice settle in her stomach. The Harrington family still holds 20% of shares and 3 board seats. Exactly. And from what I remember, they weren't thrilled about selling to you in the first place. They're old money, Maya. Chicago royalty. The kind of people who smile in public and sharpen knives in private. Alicia's voice softened. I'm just saying, be careful. When people like that feel threatened, they don't just fight fair. They fight to win. Alicia's warning proved prophetic. Maya walked into the boardroom at 9 a.m. sharp, her head high despite the bruise on her face. She'd worn her armor today, a charcoal gray suit, her grandmother's pearls, her hair styled perfectly. If they wanted to see a CEO, she'd give them one. The board members were already seated around the long mahogany table. 12 faces, mostly white, mostly male, mostly wearing expressions that ranged from concern to something that looked disturbingly like satisfaction. At the head of the table sat Charles Harrington III, patriarch of the founding family, 74 years old with silver hair and eyes like chipped ice. Next to him were his son, Charles IV, and his daughter, Margaret, both in their 40s, both wearing the same expression of polite disdain. Dr. Ellison, Charles III said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Thank you for joining us. Though I must say, given the circumstances, We weren't sure you'd be in any condition to attend. Maya took her seat at the opposite end of the table. Given that I was assaulted in my own hotel, you mean? I'm perfectly capable of conducting business, Charles. Of course, of course. He folded his hands. Which is why we need to discuss the incident and the fallout. The incident, Maya said carefully, was a hate crime. Travis Cole racially profiled me, escalated a situation that should never have occurred, and physically assaulted me. I've filed a police report. He's been terminated, and I'm implementing immediate reforms to ensure nothing like this ever happens again. Reforms that include shutting down our flagship property. Margaret Harrington spoke up, her voice sharp. Do you have any idea what that's going to cost? We're fully booked through the holidays. You're talking about millions in lost revenue. I'm talking about doing what's right. What's right? Charles IV interjected, leaning forward, is protecting this company's reputation. And right now, Dr. Ellison, you're making that very difficult. Maya felt the first stirring of real alarm. I'm sorry. Charles III pulled out his phone and turned it toward her. On the screen was the video from the lobby. But something was wrong. The footage had been edited.
Cut.
Rearranged. It showed Maya raising her voice, showed her appearing aggressive and confrontational, showed Travis looking defensive and frightened. But it didn't show the slap. It didn't show the racial profiling. It didn't show anything that would make Travis look like the aggressor. This version, Charles III said smoothly, has been viewed over 5 million times in the past 12 hours. It's trending under the hashtag CEO meltdown. Social media is calling you unstable, unhinged. Some are even suggesting you staged the whole thing for publicity. Maya's blood went cold. That's been doctored. That's not what happened. Can you prove that? Margaret asked, her eyebrows raised. Because from where we're sitting, all we see is our CEO having a very public breakdown that's threatening to destroy everything this company has built. Everything I built, Maya corrected, her voice hard. I took out loans. I risked everything. I grew this company from 1 property to 15. The Ellison name on those buildings is mine, not yours. Actually, Charles IV said, pulling out a document. According to the shareholder agreement, the board has the authority to remove a CEO if they're deemed a liability to the company's interests. And right now, Dr. Ellison, you're the biggest liability we have. The room went silent. Maya looked around the table, reading the faces. Some looked uncomfortable. Some looked away. But the Harringtons looked triumphant. You're trying to force me out, Maya said slowly. Over a video you know is fake. Over a situation where I was the victim. We're trying to protect our investment, Charles III said. Nothing personal. Just business. Maya stood up, her chair scraping against the floor.
No.
You don't get to do this. You don't get to twist the truth, manipulate the narrative, and push me out of the company I built. I know what this is really about. You never wanted a black woman owning the Harrington Grand. You sold it to me because you were desperate, because your family had run it into the ground, because you had no choice. But you've been waiting for a chance to take it back. And you think this is it. Charles III's mask finally slipped. His expression went cold, predatory. Careful, Dr. Ellison. You're already on thin ice. Accusations like that could be considered defamatory. Truth isn't defamation. Prove it. He smiled. In the meantime, we'll be voting on your future with this company at next week's shareholder meeting. I suggest you prepare accordingly. Maya walked out of that boardroom feeling like she'd been hit all over again. But this time, the blow was aimed at everything she'd built, everything she'd worked for, everything she'd promised her grandmother. She sat in her car in the parking garage for 20 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying not to cry. She'd faced discrimination before, had dealt with it her whole life, but this felt different. More insidious. They were using her own victimization as a weapon against her.
Her phone rang.
It was Alicia. I saw the doctored video, Alicia said immediately. Maya, this is serious. They're building a case to oust you.
We need to fight back.
Hard.
How?
Maya's voice cracked. They control the narrative. They have board votes. They have the founding family name. What do I have? You have the truth. And you have me. And Alicia paused. You said a housekeeper documented everything? Gloria Patterson? Yes. Then we have ammunition. Maya, listen to me. They're powerful, but they're not invincible. Old money families like the Harringtons? They think they're untouchable. That's their weakness. They get sloppy. They leave trails. And I guarantee you, if Travis Cole was doing this with their blessing, there's evidence. We just need to find it. Maya closed her eyes, thinking. Then she opened them, and something had shifted. The despair was still there, but beneath it, something harder. Something that had been forged in the fire of every obstacle she'd ever overcome. Set up a meeting with Gloria, Maya said. Tomorrow.
I want to see everything she has. And Alicia?
Start digging into the Harringtons. Their finances, their dealings with Travis, their plans for the hotel. If they're trying to force me out, there's a reason beyond just racism.
They want something.
Already on it, Alicia said.
Maya?
Don't let them break you. You fought too hard to get here. The meeting with Gloria Patterson happened in a small coffee shop on the south side, far from the gleaming towers of downtown Chicago. Gloria arrived with a worn leather bag, the kind that had seen decades of use. She sat down across from Maya and Alicia and pulled out 3 thick folders. I've been working in hotels since I was 19 years old, Gloria said. I've cleaned rooms in places where the staff entrance was separate from the guest entrance, where we weren't allowed to use the same bathrooms, where managers would talk about guests like they were animals when they thought we couldn't hear. She opened the first folder. I learned early that memory isn't enough. You need proof. Inside were incident reports dating back 3 years, complaints Gloria had filed about Travis's behavior that had mysteriously disappeared from the official HR system. Emails where Travis made racist jokes. Photographs of staff assignments showing that Black and Latino employees were systematically given the worst shifts, the hardest work, the least visibility. But this, Gloria said, opening the second folder, this is what you really need to see. It was a series of financial documents, bank statements, wire transfers, emails between Travis Cole and Charles Harrington IV. Alicia leaned forward, her lawyer instincts immediately engaged. Where did you get these? He launched into a prepared speech, painting Maya as unstable, pointing to the doctor video, suggesting that her erratic behavior made her unfit for continued leadership. Several board members nodded along. Maya watched, her jaw tight, waiting for her moment. Finally, Charles concluded. Therefore, the board recommends a vote of no confidence in Dr. Maya Ellison as CEO, effective immediately. All in favor. Point of order. Alicia stood up, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. Before any vote is taken, we have evidence that must be entered into the record. Evidence that this entire proceeding is based on fraud and discrimination. Charles's face darkened. This is highly irregular. This is entirely legal, Alicia countered. And unless you want to be sued for breach of fiduciary duty, you'll allow us to present. For the next hour, Maya and Alicia laid it all out. They showed the unedited videos of the assault. They presented Gloria's documentation of Travis's discrimination and the Harringtons' conspiracy. They revealed the secret sale negotiations and the discriminatory clauses. They had 14 staff members ready to testify. They had bank records, emails, and witness statements. The room erupted. Reporters were typing furiously. Investors were shouting questions. Board members who hadn't been part of the conspiracy looked genuinely shocked. Charles Harrington tried to maintain control, but his son and daughter were visibly panicking, their lawyer whispering frantically in their ears. Finally, Maya stood. The room gradually quieted. I built this company, she said, her voice steady and clear, on the principle that luxury hospitality should be for everyone. That the color of your skin shouldn't determine the quality of your experience. That dignity isn't negotiable. She looked directly at Charles Harrington. You tried to destroy that. You used racism as a business strategy. You weaponized discrimination for profit. And you thought you could get away with it because people like me aren't supposed to fight back. She held up the company charter. But when I founded Ellison Hotels, I included a protection that my lawyers said was unnecessary. A clause that states any board action motivated by discrimination is automatically void. You mocked me for it, Charles. Called it idealistic and impractical. But right now, that clause invalidates every vote you were planning to take today. It nullifies the sale you've been secretly negotiating. And it strips your family of voting power on any matter related to this company's leadership. The room exploded again. Alicia was presenting motions. Other shareholders were calling for an immediate vote. The Harringtons' lawyer was trying to object, but the evidence was overwhelming. When the chaos finally settled, a new vote was called, not on Maya's leadership, but on stripping the Harrington family of their board seats and voting shares for breach of fiduciary duty. It passed by an overwhelming majority. Security escorted Charles IV, and Margaret from the building. Charles III turned back at the door, his face twisted with rage and humiliation. "This isn't over," he hissed at Maya. "Yes," Maya said quietly. "It is." 3 weeks later, the Ellison Grand reopened. Maya stood in the lobby, her lobby, truly hers now, and watched as the first guests arrived. The staff was different now. Gloria Patterson had been promoted to Director of Guest Experience, leading a completely restructured team committed to genuine inclusivity. New training programs were in place. Anonymous reporting systems had been established. And every single staff member had been part of designing the new culture. The marbles still gleamed. The chandeliers still sparkled. The art still made bold statements. But something fundamental had shifted. The space felt different now, warmer, more honest, more true to the vision Maya had always held. A young black woman approached the reception desk, her daughter holding her hand. The little girl couldn't have been more than 7, eyes wide as she took in the grandeur. The receptionist, a new hire named Marcus, personally vetted by Gloria, smiled warmly. "Welcome to the Ellison Grand. Checking in?" "Yes," the woman said, and Maya heard the slight hesitation in her voice, the unconscious bracing for dismissal or judgment. But Marcus just processed her information smoothly, efficiently, with genuine warmth. "Perfect, Ms. Adams. We're so happy to have you and your daughter here. You're in room 2417, beautiful lake view. Is there anything special we can do to make your stay more comfortable?" The woman's shoulders relaxed. Her smile became real. "No, thank you. This is already perfect." As they walked toward the elevator, Maya heard the little girl say, "Mommy, this place is so pretty. Do you think we really belong here?" And the mother, with tears in her eyes, squeezed her daughter's hand and said, "Baby, we belong anywhere we want to be. Don't you ever forget that." Maya felt her grandmother's presence in that moment, felt Evelyn's pride, her vindication, her love. Gloria appeared at Maya's side, watching the same scene. "We did good," she said softly.
"We're not done," Maya replied.
"This is just one hotel. There are 14 more. And beyond that, there's an entire industry that needs to change." Gloria smiled. "Then I guess we'd better get to work." As the sun set over Lake Michigan, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple, Maya Ellison stood in her hotel, her legacy, her grandmother's dream, her promise kept, and knew that sometimes the people they underestimate are the ones who change everything. Not because it's easy, not because it's safe, but because it's necessary, and because some fights are worth everything you have to give. She didn't just save her hotel. She didn't just expose the truth. She built something that would outlast all of them, a space where dignity wasn't negotiable, where belonging wasn't conditional, and where the next little girl with wide eyes and big dreams would walk through those golden doors and know, without question, that she was home.